Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. It's so nice to see so many people came out tonight, even though they could be walking on the waterfront or some other nice thing. I wanted to tell you the Hilltop Street Fair is coming up August 27th. So if you want to know more about it, this little piece of paper will be on the piano. So we have three great presentations tonight. The first one is Steve LaBerge, who was born in Minneapolis and is married to Natalie, who is also a collaborator. They live in the Elephant House in Tacoma on 30th, which has received recognition for its unique architecture and interior design. They have two grown sons. He began as a clay artist creating collage objects that could be hung on the wall. He started creating large-scale works in 2010 for Burning Man and has made at least one piece a year since that time. He'll be showing you those. Following each Burning Man event, he was able to exhibit or bring his work to the Tacoma public in festivals and as installations. He is best known for his permanent installations, the Slug, the Space Orb, and the TVs at the Art and Cultural Center, Alma Mater, Tacoma. Each work encourages public participation. The Space Orb functioned as an intervention in different public spaces in Tacoma in 2020. It was a collaboration between Steve, Paul Blanchard, and Stan Shaw. Are Paul and Stan here tonight? Been there, done that. These three came together to create a project that could be conveyed in story and visual art and as a real-world object. Steve, do you want to present your show?
Yes, I do. I think Jeff Strong is here. Jeff helped a lot with this project, and he wore something like this, but a full hazmat suit. I know that when I put this on, you'll all respect me more. It'll be easier to talk to you. It'll be easier to tell you what to do because I look very important. I am now a doctor. So this is great. So as Lynn said, the project is a collaboration. Paul Blanchard grew up in Tacoma. He is an advertising executive and a creator. His part on the project was to create storyline. Stan Shaw is a graphic novel illustrator, and if you saw on the back of the room is a graphic novel that was presented in Grit City magazine, published 4 issues, and that's where part of the story was presented. Another collaborator would be Nathan Blanchard, and he is related to Paul. He created video for the project, and then of course Grit City magazine, who published what we were up to. There we go. This is one. One is an alien. After coming back from Meow Wolf Museum in Santa Fe, we thought, why don't we create this multiple-level storyline based on this? So we put this in the entrance, and we looked for people to recruit in order to participate in the project. This is the beginning of the project. This is Stan and Paul's work. If you look up on the right, you'll see what is, we call it, this is not a space orb. This is a probe. Early on, this actually landed near Mount Rainier in 1896. It is documented in the News Tribune that 2 people actually sighted a UFO over Mount Rainier in that year. And so this is the probe. Apparently the probe was taken from my basement and then moved to a trendy coffee shop downtown Tacoma. It also went to Burning Man. Its purpose was for people to sit inside it for their thoughts and conversations to be recorded, and through its tentacles on top, to send those messages through the multiverse to one. A little bit small, but this is in Grit City Magazine. You can see the probe is down at the bottom. And so while Paul and Stan were creating content, Natalie and I and my garage were very active in building what would be the physical part of this project. And this is the beginnings of the space orb. Continues. And this is the base. I know, I look pretty good. And so my process in working with fiberglass, I think most of you are probably familiar, I would use chicken wire, overlay with something like bubble wrap, something solid, and then fiberglass impregnated with resin. And in the case of creating little ones, I pull it off soon enough before it's brittle and put the pieces together. And part of my process is to work with LED lights, typically. And so this is one. They are coming out of the bathroom. I don't know why. We don't know that much about aliens. And here in my backyard, we're working on interactive activity between one and the space orb with the LED lights using RF and little computers. The idea, the plan was that the space orb would land at Alma Mater, downtown Tacoma, and that people would interact with it. People would go inside it and would move around it, and groups would congregate in it. And so part of that interactivity is this is a series of little metal touch plates, and these are underneath the space orb, and there's groupings of these, and people could touch these, and different sounds like the scale, or different sounds like sounds taken from outer space would come from the space orb, including a theremin type of feature. Working with the lights and working with these objects, a series of small computers from Arduinos to Raspberry Pis to this is an easy interactive board called Bear Conductive that helps to create sound. Grit City was publishing, and we're pretty excited about that. But then something serious got in the way of our plan to have this as an interactive piece at Alma Mater. COVID came along. Alma Mater worked really hard in order to feed the homeless and feed the needy. As this happened, they did not have room for us to bring this distraction of a thing that would gather people under it to that location. So I recognize quite a few of you were here or down at Fireman's Park this night when we delivered it essentially to the city of Tacoma. Without much planning, we did have a variety of characters. Some of us wore hazmat suits, some of us dressed as doctors, and some of us you can see our head of security in the back, the man in black. And I checked my place. And so at this time, we could play the first video produced by Nathan Blanchard. Where it came from, we don't know.
An entity of unknown origin appeared in Tacoma's Fireman's Park around sunset Thursday night. Eyewitnesses claim to have seen a brilliant flash before the object
suddenly appeared.
I recommend you back off.
Get back there.
The Guild of Independent Tacoma Scientists immediately reported to the scene, where head scientist Steve LaBerge instructed his team to cordon off the landing site and conduct an active investigation.
Anything else you see in there?
Little is currently known about what some are calling a space orb.
All we know is it just appeared.
Take it back, keep it distance. It's too dangerous to be anywhere near the object.
We don't know anything beyond that. Yeah, so that was the work of Nathan Blanchard, and with his help by his uncle, Paul. And pretty fun to be a part of a project that's a collaboration. And we realize at this point that we're not just collaborating with each other to present this. We're collaborating with the city without their permission. It's a guerrilla project. But they did provide permissions in a sense as we went along. And on another level, we're collaborating with the whole community. Everybody that became a part of it, just by viewing it, became a part of what was going on here. And, yeah. And so we wanted to provide the full story. And how do you do that with an object that just sits there? And how do you do that with a printed comic beyond passing out the printed comic? And so we needed an internet presence. And this is something that Paul Blanchard created, the science website, What is That Tacoma? And through this website, this is a Facebook link, and it's still up, you discover that there's a group called the Guild of Independent Tacoma Scientists, GITS. And I am one, perhaps the lead, I find out. I'm a little bit victim of that position. Are running investigations and know quite a bit about this thing. And their intentions might be good, and their intentions might not be good. And so as part of the storyline, one needed to show up at some point, and so here is one. Enjoying the view. And at this point, I think there's a second video. If you look, you can see one. Well, there we go. Not a lot of people, but some people would notice this. And if they were following the story on Facebook, then they would be aware that this is something that's going on. Oh, yeah. Okay, there we go. And so in reference to the city of Tacoma, what is this? This is Metro Parks, Fireman Square. After a week there, we moved it to down at the bottom of the hill in Old Town, and then we moved it up at the top of the hill. City of Tacoma, no, Metro Parks reaches out to me and says, hey, you can't do this. And it was really cute because they referenced that I might be a scientist that is aware of the, what spaceship that's been landing around Tacoma. But there's a permit process. You got 72 hours. And so I reached back and said, I'd be thrilled to do the permit process. And they said, well, it's going to take us about 3 months to even look at the permit if you filled it out. But don't tell anybody. There's other parks in Tacoma. And so apparently, if there's 3 streets that come together, sometimes there's a spot that they create that is too small for a house to go on. And some of these actually look very much like a park, and you would think this is Metro Parks jurisdiction. It's not. And I imagine this person in the office telling me this, saying, don't tell me. And I imagine a city employee saying, so you're telling him to put it on one of our parks. But they explain that, the city of Tacoma does not have the infrastructure in order to deal with this. And they were all enjoying it. So please, consider that. So we moved the Space Orb to 12 locations throughout Tacoma. This photo came from St. Brian. We were featured on, the Seattle Evening Mag, thank you. And then outside of Tacoma, the city of Lakewood invited us to bring it there. And so here we are in front of the court building, downtown Lakewood, of that roundabout. Each time we moved it, there was performance art. Jeff Strong was very much a part of this. He knew how to operate these space-age machines and measuring devices. This is down between Thea's Landing and the next condo building in a space. We were able to get permission from the landowner there. Eventually, thanks to Rosemary Panacanti, the city invited us via the Tacoma Light Trail to put it here in Tullifson Park, Tullifson Square, whatever it is, right across from the Art Museum. It's Natalie inside. You can see behind the car the little trailer that we'd drag it around in. This was scary. I'm the engineer who created it's an exoskeleton is what holds the thing up, and it is fairly heavy. And I didn't have a lot of confidence in my work, but it held up.
Where is it now?
So it's in our backyard.
Do you light it up there?
Yeah, it's lit up all the time. It runs 24/7, and it runs without an issue. Where, and that's a good point, is during this process, it had batteries that I would change every 2 hours. And it was set to run at dusk for about 2 or 3 hours, and 2 nights of that, and the batteries would be pretty much depleted, so I'd swap them out and recharge. We're still in Tolleson here. And so eventually it did get to Alma Mater. Oh, and there's a film of that, if you would show the next video. And this would be the process of it, bringing it to the final resting point, or it actually getting there. Now I suspect that's the last slide. You know, we learned a lot in this project, and the experiences we had were really overwhelmingly positive. One thing people told us, multiple people at these different locations, was, and I quote, "This is what I love about Tacoma." Okay, I didn't get to 15 minutes. Thank you. Any questions? Lynn?
Steve, tell us a little bit about some of the other giant fiberglass pieces you've made.
Yeah, and so Lynn was involved in a collaborative project called the TVs. That was an interactive piece that we brought to Burning Man and then now have in Tacoma at Alma Mater. And this project involved 20 different artists embellishing fiberglass TVs that I had made. I passed them off on the subject of TV. When you think about TV, it's quite a deep subject. I mean, I think that I watched Gilligan's Island and heard those people talk more than I heard my dear parents talk, because it was there every day. And so part of that piece is that it's interactive, and that if you press a button and dance in front of a green screen that's right next to the project, then your image will show on the TVs to give actually a participant an opportunity to be on TV. So that's one. So recently, in collaboration with Puget Sound Rebels, I built a fire-breathing dragon that's been in various parades in Tacoma, and Natalie and I just like to take it out to dinner sometimes. And it does breathe fire. We're going to take that to Burning Man this year and see how that goes. A collaboration with the Tacoma Refugee Choir. Recently just built a 10-foot tall, 10-foot wide heart of fiberglass with embedded lights. If you drive by our house, you'll see it there in the driveway. It's on 3 wheels. One side, it's a big red heart. And I like to think of the Banksy, where the little girl, you know, is walking along, you know, this one, pulling a wagon. But this is just a huge heart. And what else is it? Oh, and the slug, this piece that people put their head in. And so, after going to Burning Man, I just realized that it's really fun. And to bring something to Burning Man. There's an appreciative audience of 70,000 people. But what we've experienced in Tacoma is there's no competition, and it's such a surprise to see this random art piece that it's even a much better audience. So hopefully, I continue. Yeah, Elaine?
Is it okay to wander into your backyard without getting in any trouble?
You wouldn't get in trouble. And if you brought little kids or somebody else, they wouldn't get in trouble either. So yeah, go ahead. But you can always text or call. Yeah, Ann?
How are you going to get that dragon to Burning Man?
I have a friend whose name is Dale Chestnut that has a trailer that Dale's sitting right here.
In one piece?
Indeed, it is. Yeah, it fits in our garage. You saw it. The neck breaks down, and so we'll just shove it in the trailer and drive away. Yeah. Lynn?
What about that bowling ball piece?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was quite the piece. Yeah, so Lynn played a big part, as well as other people. The idea was to bring something to Burning Man that would kind of look like it was breaking all the rules. And so we created a beautiful, involved snakes and metal conduit, like a wagon wheel that would go above 4 sofas in a big fashion. And on that wagon wheel was a bowling ball that would spin depending upon when somebody pulled the wagon wheel down their way. So all this apparatus, kind of hard to explain, was built that way. And the reality is, to have a bowling ball spinning on an object above the heads of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 people controlling it was a pretty frightful thing.
Did you get an insurance policy for that?
In reference to this situation, I am a doctor. I am not an insurance expert, so no. The answer is no. But that would have been smart, huh? Yeah.
What is your policy about safety?
There you go. Thank you. Burning Man presented that you should always, safety is third. And I'm not sure. I think first is creativity, right? This is kind of a theater thing too. And second might be engineering, but third, definitely safety. If we led with safety, I wouldn't even be standing here. Yeah. Anything else? Yes, Mom.
And your mother.
What about my mother?
I'm wondering if in your growing up years, if something was sort of festering in your head that you might want to do all of this in your later years.
Definitely. My parents are here tonight, and yeah. In our house, in houses, art was always important, and creativity was important. Part of my life was spent growing up on a farm, where I worked with my hands, and I built things every day. And I got a sense in my youth that I was a person that was handy, and if there was a project put in front of me, I could probably complete it. And so, it's Natalie talks about when these projects are, when I get into it, I don't have to know how it's going to be done to start. I can just start moving along. And I have this belief that I will be able to figure it out. And I don't know if you do this, but I wake up at 1 or 2 a.m. to pee. I go back and I lay in bed, and I have the choice, I feel, to stress out about what's going on, or to kind of think through these puzzles that we have. And for me, the puzzles are, how am I going to finish that heart? There's some real problems with that. How am I going to straighten that out? And usually in the morning, they're all straightened out. I got that from my parents. Yes?
So how much did that thing weigh?
Yeah. And so I would put it about 250 pounds.
So not too bad.
It's not too bad, but Jeff will tell you, it took 6 of us. And it was heavy and awkward, and it was hard. Well, we would just go to here pretty much. And so with 6 of us doing that, maybe it was a little more than 250 pounds. Maybe it was 300 pounds, but also it was awkward. And we're all afraid of breaking it.
Was it over 8 feet wide?
Was it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's about 10 to 11 feet wide.
If you get out on the road without scaring the heck out of people.
Yeah, safety third. Always. Safety first.
Pedestrians beware.
Exactly. Yeah.
Do you have a Facebook page so we can see you when you go to Burning Man?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's me, you know, Steve LaBerge on Facebook, whatever that would be. And, you know, at Burning Man, there's no internet. And so if I'm on it, when I come back, I'll post some pictures. And yeah, I know there should be good content, some content about the dragon at Burning Man. Yeah, that should be really fun.
Could you have the dragon battle against the one, maybe?
So here's when the dragon was completed, the space orb was downtown Tacoma in that big, what looked like a gravel pit between the Theophos and the other conduit. And so the dragon's done, and Nellie and I want to take it out. I call Paul Blanchard and say, hey, we're taking the dragon out. I also call Chris Cruz, and hey, we're taking the dragon out. And so they were interested in filming this. And so Paul put together a piece, and this is another video that I didn't bring, of the dragon was a tool of the Gits to torment, says Paul, the space orb that we already know could obliterate the planet if it was angry. But so and so then with special effects, you see the dragon come up, it's blowing flames at the orb, and the orb just kind of treats it to the dragon. It defeated the dragon, no problem.
Oh.
Yeah.
Continuing features.
James.
Are these videos on YouTube?
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. No, they aren't. What is the other one? You know, it's like Venmo or something. VMO. But you will find them through Facebook. What is That Tacoma? Scroll down to the bottom, and then you can read the whole story. And it's good reading. Paul is really very funny. Oh, good. I'm all done.
Wow. So Mindi is next. Mindi Katzman art career started at an early age. Always interested in making pictures and having art supplies at hand. After attaining a BA in fine arts and drawing and printmaking, she turned her attention to painting, moved to New York, worked in galleries, and continued with taking classes at the School of Visual Arts. She had a residency at Skowhegan School of Painting and Sculpture in Maine and at the Banff Art Center in Alberta, Canada. After Banff, the West Coast beckoned and Mindi moved to Seattle in 1988, where she pursued her painting, sculpting, and life as an artist. Landscape has most often been her point of departure, but since COVID, a more abstract interest in skylights has taken over. She'll explain that. Always exploring, at the suggestion of her daughter, cartoonist Natalie, how do you say her last name? Dupiel. Natalie Dupiel. She took a comics class in 2020, and that, in a nutshell, brings us to this talk, The Accidental Cartoonist. Mindi?
Hi, thank you all for coming. Thanks for asking me, Lynn. So that's the explanation of why it's The Accidental Cartoonist, and I'm going to start, if I remember how to do this, with showing you a few images that I did before you see all this cartooning. I've worked with metal. That's a piece of, I went to a talk from an 80-year-old meditator, Sylvia Bornstein, and she said, I wake up every day saying, here I am, life. So somehow that piece of sculpture came from that. Let's see. And then I started doing some larger outdoor sculptures, these dinosaurs. And this painting, which is a little washed out, but it's an encaustic painting about 2 feet by 3 feet. It's the Statue of Liberty down on Alki in West Seattle. koi fish. All these are encaustic on paper and with paper on top of the encaustic, so when that gets painted, it pops out a little more. Anyway, and that's kind of the most recent. This is what I was saying about abstract, kind of based on skylights. So if you go on my website, and I'll leave some cards out, or you can ask me later, but that's kind of what my work is now. And then my daughter said, as Lynn said, Mom, why don't you take cartoon class? And I'd met she said, these two great women are giving this class. So I learned from that class that cartooning is really hard. And it looks so easy. We look at the Sunday Funnies, or we see this and that, or a graphic novel. It's a lot of work. So you start out with these sketches. You'll see what this one ends up being about, my two little kitties. And then, the drawing gets a little more formal, and, here's me and my poor little cat that died, my daughter and her partner, and we're all sad. And the house is empty, my heart is broken, we go to the pound, and these two little cats are stuck in this little tiny box for one. And this cat, literally, there was a cat-sized hamster wheel. And so I adopted Percy and Lizzo. And here I am driving home, and the cat's in the front seat because the cat jumped out of her box in the car. And now we're home, and the house is whole. Tigger's in heaven, and my heart is whole. And so then that's what the finished piece looked like. So that was my introduction to cartooning. So in the same class, we were supposed to come up with an idea, brainstorming, and the ages of people in this class were, from 20-year-olds to I wasn't the oldest one. So I had taken a trip to Antarctica back in my 30s, and these, again, were some of the sketches, which then became this little 4-page cartoon on Antarctica. And my mother had called me up, do I want to go to Antarctica? And it's like, I was saying to Lynn earlier, a month in a tiny cabin with my mother. I wasn't exactly sure, but my brother said, what's the question? So she ended up in a car wreck and couldn't go, but said I could go. So off to South America I flew, got on this ship called the World Discoverer, which is now at the bottom of a reef in the Solomon Islands. And these were some of my adventures. This was the Chaplin Cape Horn. We saw penguins, icebergs, elephant seal, stinkiest thing in the universe, penguin rookery, also very stinky, and, kissing cousins. And I did actually get to touch a wandering albatross who was sitting near their eggs. And then one of the tenderboat drivers we went to where Shackleton's hut was, and that was pretty amazing. I mean, it's exactly how he left it because things don't break down in Antarctica. It's too cold. So you literally see like a penguin on, anyway, they were very kind and let me off for an hour to continue doing drawings. And they took off, and at some point in all of that, an elephant seal ate a penguin, and I'm joking, saying, the elephant seal is eating me, but no, he did not really eat me. And at the end, they asked me these questions, and I didn't doubt their return for a second, misconfident. Actually, my heart was pounding, because it's like, what if they don't come back? I could die out here. And there you go. And just as a little laugh, here I am, actually in Antarctica, sitting with the penguins in the ice. That was like 1985 or something. So then I came home. So that was the end of that cartoon class. I came home, COVID hit, like literally 3 weeks later. And I started drawing my cats, although I never developed it farther than some of these little, one cat would be on top of the bed and the other one, there'd just be a big lump in the blankets. And he sheltered under the blankets. And then one day they were sitting in the window and the neighbor cat was on the rail, so they were practicing social distancing. And the other thing they love to do is I don't have a piece of furniture in my house that black cloth is not torn out of. And, here they are hanging out under the couch. And this one was the most developed I got in that series, where they knocked a plant and shattered it in the living room, and here they are sort of doing that, and here they are, he did it, she did it, and here's me in my little kitty slippers, which I don't really have. And that was that. So then some other cartoon, I thought, you see all these 50% off signs, and you usually think it's about the money, but this was at a hair salon, and so 50% off. And then, of course, vax to the max, like, I don't think I could have another vaccine. I've had, yes, I've got the COVID, I've had whatever, HPV, pneumonia. So that was a little homage to COVID and the vaccines. Then the woman that taught that first class asked 6 of her students, me being one, she wanted to get back into teaching, and she wanted to do it with 6 of us that she'd had in classes before of a certain age, because she felt like we had more interesting stories to tell than a lot of the young kids she had been teaching. So we all had very different things, but one exercise that was really fun, I don't know how many of you know the cartoonist Roz Chast. She's often in New Yorker, so she's fabulous. Anyway, she had done a cartoon of herself as all these different literary characters. And as an exercise in this class, we were asked to do a similar thing. So here I am as Tinkerbell and Heidi and what's her name, Gloria Steinem, Scarlett O'Hara, Alan Shepard, Einstein, Nancy Drew, Nancy Pelosi, and just me being me with my little kitties. So those exercises were a really big part of helping you loosen up before you started delving into your final cartoon project. And the final cartoon project, and part of the reason I wanted to take this class, I don't know how many of you all have done internet dating. It never really worked for me. But I did try Tinder yet again at the suggestion of my daughter. And all I kept thinking was, it's got to be such a good cartoon in this. So when she offered the class, it was great, because I hadn't been able to figure it out. And now you will see the figuring it out. So 60, I'm single. 65, 68, still single. How am I going to ever meet anybody? Coffee shop, 50th high school reunion, in the museum. Try Tinder, says Natalie. And I was like, well, how do you do that? So she explained it to me. Swipe to the left for the ones you don't like. Swipe to the ones to the right that you do. And if they swipe right, it says, bingo, it's a match. So there were all these completely weird people. You can't make it up. You can't make it up. So swipes to the left were this guy, Pat, an ex-military guy. This guy who had nothing but his torso, I don't know, headless. This guy really was sitting in his backyard with the AK-45 or whatever they're called. This guy, out of focus, selfies, big, 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 big. Then these were ones that went to the right, but nothing ever happened. This guy was looking for the queen to meet his king, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, can we just meet for coffee? And he deleted me. So this guy was kind of just a stone jazz musician from Tacoma, but that never went anywhere. And this guy, who seemed really interesting, artist, but I missed the fine print where it said married, non-monogamous, whereas I was kind of more into monogamous and not married. So that never went anywhere either. So finally, the phone rings or the computer dings, and here's a very lively conversation. It's New Year's Eve, there's a pandemic, the president's being impeached, there's a snowstorm, and look, we're out there still trying. So after some fun text exchange, and here's my little cell phones talking to each other, we make a coffee date. So we get to the coffee shop, cute little French pastry shop in Bellevue, and it's like, wow, he's taller and cuter, and he shaved his beard. I never would have recognized him, but I was the only other one in there, so he knew it was me. And we talk. He's statistics, I'm fate. His show is Billionaires or whatever it is, and I'm Gilmore Girls. He's gambler, I'm art. He's got dogs, I've got cats. He's carnivorous, I'm vegan. Not really, but it looked better for the cartoon. And James Bond, Sherlock Holmes. And we had nothing in common. But we had a good time finding that out. It wasn't horrible. So we shook hands and went our separate ways. And then the end of it, note to self, enjoy the sunset, relish routines, delete dating apps. And here I am with my cute little kitty. So, and what it says on the bottom is, although Tinder did not heat up for me, I did have fun making this comic. You can see more of my not comic work at MindiKatzman.com. And thanks to the people that did that. So, the people that helped me, this is my daughter's cartoon, which came out at the beginning of COVID, and I have to give her credit for getting me going on this path. And here's her first New Yorker cartoon. So she's good. She's, she is the cartoonist in the family. Are you okay? You're barely paying attention to your book, phone, show, laptop, and the crossword you started 10 minutes ago. And then she had an op-ed piece in the LA Times New Year's Day this year. And I don't know how I am on time. Do I have time to read this? So it's called Riding a Wave of Calm. And the interesting thing is, as a parent, I mean, I've got a great relationship with my daughter, but this opened, it was like, oh, I just know she goes off surfing. So I started learning to surf again during the pandemic. While I wasn't exactly a pro in the first place, let me get a little closer here, beginning again is more challenging than I expected it to be. It's a constant reminder of how many factors are outside of my control.
Could you talk into the mic, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. Important detail. It's a constant reminder of how many factors are out of my control. But the ocean forces me to remember what I do have the power over. I've got this. My thoughts, my actions, my reactions, all mine. As we head into a new year with inevitable raw uncertainties and fears, knowing this feels like a gift, that doing what I can has come to be enough. Whew. I'm in the water, building strength, and still it's beautiful here. One day, maybe I'll master top turns and cutbacks and barrels. Who knows surfing? I don't. But for now, I'll be content standing on my own 2 feet. It's like, oh, okay. So it was important for me to show you this because that's how I got into cartooning. And what she does, this is the other thing I have to share with you, is Short Run is a comics and arts festival in Seattle every year, except for these last 2 COVID years. And it's coming back this year. And it's like 100 cartoonists and artists at Seattle Center in the Fisher Pavilion. It's free to go to. There's a ton of, you don't have a clue how broad the range of comics are. It's eye-opening. Anyway, so that will be again this year, and that's the women that taught the cartoon classes I took. They founded it. It's this 10th year anniversary this year, and Kelly Fro and Mita Metallo were the founders of that. So then the next question I know you are all dying to know is what is going to be my next theme? And I have the theme. I'm not sure where I'm going to go with it, but we've got the joy of cooking, the joy of sex, and Nana's joy of aging, which will come with your own color in your aches and pains and bodily malfunctions. So there you go. Yeah, I really, and what a perfect audience. I really want to continue on the Nana themes because if we don't laugh at it, we're in a sorry state. And you start to realize the more you put it out. The Tinder thing was so universal. I'm not sure where we'll go from there, but I would love to be able to pick up some themes like that, just because it would seem most of us, we're all at a certain age. And so there you go. Okay, I'm happy to answer any questions anyone might have. Yes.
So Steve might wake up in the middle of the night trying to figure out engineering things, but you wake up in the middle of the night going, oh my God, I've got to get up and draw that right now.
Sometimes I do keep a little thing and draw, but it's, the joy of aging thing was just like, okay, it was, joy of cooking. And I tried finding other books, but one of the things I did learn from the comic thing is editing. And it's like, well, how many details do I need to put in about this Tinder stuff or the Antarctica? And I realized, you just get rid of it and keep it really simple, and it gets the point across. So, it's been a great experience. And I didn't show, so I have the Tinder one, I have some of the original black and white ones that we did in the class, and I'll put them out if anybody wants to take one home.
Do people try to give you their ideas for what
Someone
you should be
actually
doing?
did the other day, and I won't go there. It's like, but yeah, everybody's got an idea once you get going. Let's do this, let's do that. And the thing for me, and maybe this will change, is, but if I haven't experienced it, it's not as genuine. So yeah, everybody's got kind of a funny story, and maybe, but, so yes, people give me ideas, but it's just not, the energy's not going to be the same. Maybe it will, but anyway. So, good question, thank you. There you go. Thanks for listening.
Before I forget, I want to tell you the August show, which will be the next show, will feature 3 artists, myself, my brother, and my sister. So I think that'll be pretty entertaining. They're both traveling from a distance to come and show you their work. And maybe I can get Khaki to introduce myself for that show, because I don't want to have to introduce myself or something. No, she's not doing Barbie dolls anymore. She's gluing beads on torsos. And these are those low-relief women's torsos, usually, that are bathing suit display items in stores. And she just does millions of different themes. Her house has about 50 of these in it. And I'll just tell you this one story. My partner, Dick, owns 3 of these. One of them is hanging in his kitchen, along with quite a bit of other artwork, and much of it is made by well-known local artists. So we had a museum curator for dinner there a couple of weeks ago, and Dick is saying, I've got a lot of work here, the museum might like to have it donated, eventually, and right behind you there is a Claudia Fitch painting. You might be interested in that. And the curator turns around to look at it. And he keeps turning around and looking at it, and I'm kind of surprised that he's giving that much attention to that piece. And finally he says, well, who made that? And he's pointing at my sister's torso. So we were thrilled to be able to tell her a museum curator loves your work. So then just a few days ago, he had a well-known local artist in his kitchen having lunch, and she turns around and she goes, "Who made that?" And he tells her, and she says, "It's not very good." So what do you do? Okay, so next. Pardon me?
I said, and the beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
That's right. So Steve Russell is next. He's a devoted amateur photographer who trained at the Rocky Mountain School of Photography's summer intensive program in 2009 and has since expanded his knowledge and skills with workshops in documentary and wildlife photography and in post-processing of photos with Adobe's Lightroom. Steve was awarded honorable mention in Audubon's 2015 International Photo Contest and has had his photos published in Audubon Magazine, the Entomological Society of America's World of Insects Calendar, and the Tacoma News Tribune. In Argia, is that how you say that? The Dragonfly Society of America's quarterly journal, the Seattle Times Reader's Lens features, and on Tacoma Art Museum's wall-size We Are Mighty Tacoma banner. He enjoys getting out to shoot every chance he gets and regularly posts his photos on numerous Facebook wildlife sites. Steve is retired from his job as an ergonomist. He'll tell you what that is, if you don't already know, at Boeing, and enjoys reading and riding and riding his bike nearly every day. Steve?
Thank you, Lynn. Lynn, thank you so much for asking me to do this. We actually did this about 12 years ago, 2010, I think it was, when you had first started doing these, and I did one on bugs. And Elaine, I think you were there, and maybe some others were. Does anybody feel like standing up? Feel free to stand up if you like, and not take a break or anything, but if you want to stand up and just, change your position or whatever, that's fine. Or do it while I'm talking, I don't care.
Ergonomics.
That's right, ergonomics. Yes, I was an ergonomist at Boeing for a lot of years and retired. But I've been taking pictures all my life. Really, it's my creative outlet. And but I got laid off at Boeing in 2009, and I went to photography school. Within an hour, I was on the phone to photography school, saying, and so I spent the summer learning all the ins and outs of photography, and it was the best thing that I ever did. I ended up going back to work a year later, and it was fine. But this has stayed with me, and it is really every chance I get out and shoot photography. And I've been known, I shoot a lot of bugs. We're going to do birds today, but I shoot a lot of bugs. And I've been known, I live near Fort Silicon Park, and I've been known to be laying in the winter, laying in the ivy, this big bed of ivy laying there, and people walking by or jogging by and saying, "Oh, are you okay? Are you okay? Should I call 911? And I just get oblivious to what's going on around me, and I forget that people don't understand, that I could be actually photographing a praying mantis eating another praying mantis. So anyway, today I want to show birds. I've really focused a lot on bugs because there are 6 trillion bugs, and you don't need a release of, to show pictures of bugs. And birds. A lot of people just came back from a reunion, love shooting people. My friends Bruce and Mary Beth, I did their wedding candids and all that. That's great. But my mainstay is birds and bugs. And so tonight I want to show you 50 slides of birds that, let's see if I've got this down, that I have traveled around. You know, it's one of those things that leads me to different places. And so these are the places that I'm going to focus in on now, a lot of which I have spent most of my time shooting birds, including our own state, but California, a couple spots in California, New Mexico, and Florida. And we're going to start with New Mexico, go to California, and then hit Florida, which is just a gold mine for birds, and then come back to Washington State. We're going to end with just this wonderful experience that I had this year. So, got any birders here? Oh, a lot of birders. Okay, good. Well, correct me if I'm wrong on anything on here, because I'm not a birder. I'm a photographer. I've learned a lot about birds. I've learned a lot about bugs, but I'm, not an entomologist. I'm not a birder. So I'm going to do my best at identifying everything, and I think I've got these right. So first, we're going to New Mexico, and normally people are going to the Bosque del Apache. Anyone been to the Bosque? Yeah, it's a great place. Well, just down the road from there is this, okay, I got to back up because I got to remember, Bernardo Waterfowl Preserve. And I went in the winter, and I'm thinking, I don't know why, I thought it was going to be warm. And it got down to 17 degrees. And I was out shooting these sandhill cranes, which is primarily what I wanted to see. And it snowed, and 17 degrees, and I wasn't prepared, and nearly got hypothermic, but boy, was it worth it. Great shots. Up close, sandhill crane. This was in the morning, which is the absolute best light that you can get these birds in if you have it in the right direction. And this is also a morning shot where the light just makes them golden. It's kind of like great blue herons. Sometimes they look great, but in the morning light, they can be golden, and it's just wonderful. They just saturate. There were also snow geese there, and this happened to be on my birthday when I was there, December 30th. And as I turned the corner, there was a fly-off of the snow geese. And I'm going to show you some from Washington, too. And if you haven't seen this, it's certainly within reach, in the Conway Fur Island area, north of Seattle. But anyway, that is New Mexico. That's what I'm going to show you from New Mexico. But then one of the things that drew me to Florida was wanting to see the spoonbills, roseate spoonbills. And, we don't have anything like this around here that I know of that's pink. And so I wanted to do my best to find these. And there's some, has anybody here been to Florida looking for birds? Yeah, it's a great spot, isn't it? There are a ton of places. And some of them, like Gatorland, which is just the most god-awful exploitation of gators there is. But they have a great rookery for birds that has a boardwalk, and you can get up and close and personal to these birds. They're habituated to people, and so you're not scaring them off, and you can get near the nests and so forth, and people are very respectful. Well, and then St. Augustine's Alligator Farm is another spot like that. So spoonbill, aren't they they're just incredible, and especially when you can find a background that is so complementary. I guess the artistic person in me would like that. And then portraits. Love doing portraits. One of the things I learned at Rocky Mountain School of Photography is that, you can shoot artwork, beautiful, well-known artwork, but find a way to make it yours. Shoot it in a way that it's distinctive in your own way. And so that's one of the things that internally is always pushing me. How can I make this mine, different, distinctive? And so this was an example of that portrait, looking for an opportunity for portraits. Now, who can tell me what this is? Yeah, Yeah, it's a great egret baby, and this is one that was right near the boardwalk, and some people think that beauty is in the eye of the beholder, isn't it? Some people think this is beautiful, some think they're pretty ugly. But, trying to catch them doing things is great, and this just reminded me of my childhood. But as adults, they're just stunning, I think, and especially as a mom or a dad protecting their baby, it's just great. And sometimes, you get these wonderful interactions and juxtapositions that just blow me away. And so I tend to be attracted to these things. And then a display, their mating display, which if you go in March or April, which is when I would go, I went many years in a row before COVID, and you get to see a lot of this, and they're just beautiful. Anyone tell me what these are? No. They're wood storks. And again, cute little baby wood storks, but they grow up into be handsome adults. And you can see why they call them wood storks, can't you? I mean, they look like they're carved. But they are beautiful. And they have this wonderful green, almost metallic, iridescent wings that if the light hits it right, you get to see that green. White ibis. And these, I think, are just stunning in the right light. And although they are ubiquitous in Florida, they're everywhere. You go into residential areas and they're all on the lawns and all that. So it's nothing unique, but trying to capture them in a way that's unique is always a challenge and fun. Peacock. This was at Gatorland. Just tooling around Gatorland, and here comes the peacock. And so why not take a picture, get in the right light, and so forth. So double-crested cormorants, and we've got them around here. But in Florida, I happened to catch this adult feeding the child, and I forget what you call it, the chick, I guess, a fish that it had caught. And that's what they do. Normally, they kind of regurgitate it and soften it up before they regurgitate it back into the chick. But I happened to catch the catch light on the eye of the fish. And so that's why I like this shot. And hinga. These are pretty common in Florida as well. We don't see them around here. They're snake birds. That's the common name for them. Just beautiful. Black-crowned heron. This was at the Audubon site in Venice, Florida, where they've got a little island, and then the photographers and tourists are kind of across the water and set up to take these pictures. And this one had flown in and happened to catch it at a good time. Great blue herons. And I'll show you, we've got them a lot around here, but I happened to be on Merritt Island and tooling around the swamp area, and this one had caught this huge fish, and it swallowed it. Isn't that amazing? It's just incredible. You'll see a version of that right at the end, a little series. This I'd like to call the flasher. It's a great blue heron, and that's what they do to cool off. Anyone guess? Sandhill cranes. These are colts. They're called colts. And I just happened to get two colts about the same age looking at different directions. Reddish egret. And this is at Fort DeSoto Park in Florida, where they are known to play around, and they are the most amazing things to watch, jerking around. And so they can give you some great postures. One of the things that drew me 3 years ago to Florida was burrowing owls. I wanted to get burrowing owls. I see some of these posted. And so here's one. And this one has some condition, I forget what it is. It's a condition of its eyes that make it, his eyes like that. So you see all the veins in the eyes. And so I particularly like this one. But this next one is my prize, because my friend and I went to Cape Coral, where the burrowing owls are known to be in vacant lots, and they're protected areas and so forth. And so we're tooling around, hop out of the car, and the very first thing I see is this. And there's the burrowing owl next to the sign protecting the burrowing owl, right in front of it, right next to his drawing. And it was there for maybe 5 seconds. And so I squat down, get my picture, and it's gone. And so that's the example of the moments that just fuel, my energy for doing this more and more. And there's, boy, lots and lots in the bug world too. Anyone name this one? This is, no, it's a Brandt's cormorant. And it's doing a display. It's on its nest, but it's doing a display. It's trying to attract, I think this is a female, trying to attract the male. And just look at that blue. These are the mating colors. And so the blue eye, when the light hits it just like that, it's the sky blue. And these are, has anyone here been to La Jolla in California? Okay, so if you walk along the edge of the coast there in La Jolla, you can get up close. Again, these are habituated. You're not bothering them, and you can get right near the nests. And so I get to see these, and I go there every year. I never get tired of shooting these guys. And then here's a family, and they're feeding the young. And so the adult, usually the male, I believe, flies out from this cliff area there along the boardwalk, and they'll get nesting material out in the ocean, and then they fly back in. And if you time it right, you can get a picture of them with the nesting material getting ready to land, coming back in, and that's what happened this year. It was really a good year for this. Double-crested cormorant in mating plumage with those crowns, I guess. Very unique, and I've only seen one there at a time. The brown pelicans are just one of my favorites, and catching them do a head throw like this is a treat. And doing it at sunset, when the sun is, the shade is just about ready to hit this, it's that nice golden hour and the absolute best light, and it just did it at the right time. It was just a magical moment. They also take baths, and so catching them when they're doing the bath is great. And this year, I waited around. I knew this spot. I saw the colors. That's poop, those white stripes on the cliffs. But it is just, I saw it in the lens of my camera. I'm looking at my viewfinder, and I think, wow, I wish I could get a picture of a pelican landing, spread like that, and with that in the background. And so I waited there for an hour or more, and sure enough, one came in. I got it. It was great. And again, a portrait up close. Look at the detail, the texture and the color, the shapes in that. It's just stunning. And then to finish off La Jolla, the sunset with the pelicans going over. And that was this year. It's a good shot. Also went up to Moss Landing, which is up near Monterey. And this is where I got the grebe, just caught a fish. Very fun. So that ends California. Washington, believe it or not, a snowy owl. This was 9 years ago. That's the last time they came in any numbers. And it has to do with the lemmings and the moles and up in Alaska, and there's too much, too little, whatever. So it's been 9 years since they've been here, but I was there. I'd been there the week before and taken pictures, didn't have great luck, and I thought, I'd really like to go there at sunset and see what I can find. And so, sure enough, this sunset, this owl was on this log, I think, and had his eyes closed, looked like he was taking a nap, and right before the sun goes down, opens his eyes. And fortunately, my eyes were open. I was ready to take the shot.
Set up in
No, that Ocean Shores. Yes, and that's where they were. That's where they come. Ocean Shores. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. So this is Ballard Locks. Has anyone been to the Ballard Locks? And then on the south side is Commodore Park. And there are very tall trees, and there's a rookery for great blue herons. Well, again, you've all seen pictures of gray herons, gray, blue, but this is the morning light. And this one is out getting its nesting material and coming back to the nest. And look at the golden shades of this, the saturations. It's a great time to be there. So I don't even bother taking pictures anymore unless I'm in this kind of light. It's just not worth it. Conway, Fur Island, up north of Seattle, the snow geese. Those are thousands of snow geese. This is in the morning, around 8 o'clock or so. They're coming in. They're on the other side. They roost over there on the other side, closer to the Olympics. They come around the bend, and they are on their way in over to where I am. And the Olympics in the back. Oh, boy. That was a heavenly day. And that was this year. Not 10, 12 years ago I was there and had all the wrong equipment, the wrong lens, didn't know the settings and everything, but I happened to be in the right place at the right time, and I got lucky as there was a fly-off of these snow geese. And that is Mount Baker, just the base of Mount Baker in the background there. And so they are going from left to right all together. And the sound is deafening. And it's great. The wings hitting each other and so forth. This year, I was up there in that morning light and took a close-up here. Just pointed my lens right in the center of this thing. And if you look in great detail, you see all the eyes, all the wings hitting each other. But put them together like that, it's just impressive. It's a great sight. And of course, turn around from watching the snow geese, and there's the eagle pair mating. Okay, so I'm in the last series, last 5 slides, and I want to show you this happened this year. It's one of those most remarkable, serendipitous kinds of things that has happened to me shooting birds or bugs or anything. And so Horn Rapids, Richland, Washington. Anyone been to Richland, Washington? Visiting Hanford or wherever. For me, there's not a lot to do there except at Horn Rapids Park. There's a great park there that I go every year, several times a year, to go shoot dragonflies. But also, at the end of May, there's a salmon molt. I don't know if it's released by people or maybe it's just a seasonal thing. But there's a dam. It's more like a spillway that maybe about 12 feet high. And the river, Yakima River, flows over that and then drops down about 6 feet. Well, there's a big churning underneath. The pelicans, the white pelicans, have learned that if they stay there, they can fish and get these small smolt. And so you get several dozen of them sometimes. I've seen 30, 40, even 50 of them lining up at the base of this dam. Well, this year, and I've never seen them catch a fish, or they catch a fish, it's so small you don't see what's going on. Well, my intuition said this time, I'm on in the morning, that great light, I'm there with my long lens, and there are maybe 6 or 7 of these white pelicans this year, not too many. And I just had a hunch about this one. And so I just trained my focus on this, looking through my lens, watching this. And there was this one and another buddy were right there. And all of a sudden, and this is how it happens, just a big flurry of something was going on. And that just told me, I just instinctively hit my burst mode on my camera, which shoots at 30 frames a second. So I don't want to shoot that too much because that gives me an awful lot of photos that I won't need. But this one, I just kept it on there. It just was going like a machine gun. And so I'm showing you 5 of these in the series of what happened here. So this white pelican dipped down, came up with this huge carp. And so there it is. It's got the carp in its pouch like that. It's up. But you know what? It's a little heavy. That's how big. You can see the whole shape of the fish there. But it's getting heavy. Its head's coming down. It's really going down. And going down so far, it submerged him. But it came back up. Fish was gone. But, it wouldn't be deterred. He and his buddy just kept looking. That's what he's doing there. He's looking for it again. They kept bobbing, trying to get it again. He's a slow learner. So there's no way he could swallow that one. So that is my 50 bird slides, and I'd be happy to take any questions you have on these things.
Are you shooting digital?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, digital, and now mirrorless, if that makes any difference.
And why is mirrorless design? I know this is kind of sort of, but
Well,
Reader's Digest version?
Okay, I'll tell you functionally, and this goes along with your cartoon at the end there. Getting older, boy, the lighter my equipment is, the better. And so the mirrorless equipment is smaller and lighter. Internally, there's a big difference in how it functions. But most of the manufacturers now are going almost all mirrorless. It's going to be harder and harder to find the other ones, the shutters. And so I made the transition about 2 years ago.
Do you feel like there's a big difference in quality?
Well, that is also happening. Yeah, in the higher end cameras, yes. I don't know if you know megapixels, but this camera shoots, each image is 50 megapixels. So I used to shoot, back in our day, when 12 years ago or whatever, I was, lucky to get 4 or 5 megapixels on an image. But the advantage to having 50 megapixels is that if I want to crop down, like with that series there, I was at a distance and it was smaller in the frame, but because it's 50 megapixels, I could cut that down to a fourth its size, still plenty to print and give detail. And that's it, that's cropped down, but it still has plenty of detail. So there's a lot of good reasons to get it. And the technology inside is pretty remarkable in terms of how that focus point now can follow. You lock it on to a moving bird or even a dragonfly. Yesterday, I'm shooting a dragonfly, lock that thing on there, and it stays with the bird no matter what you're moving your camera. And it will, in that burst mode, will take pictures and you can freeze dragonfly wings, in flight. You can see all the veins in the dragonfly wings. So it keeps getting better and better, I think.
So when you say long lens, how long is the lens?
Most of the time these were, I think, all 100, not all, no, 100 to 400 is a zoom lens that I use for most of my dragonflies and most of my birds. But I also have a 200 to 600 a zoom. Now there are people that spend $20,000 on a prime lens, a 600 prime lens, which is remarkable lenses, but they're very expensive. But the zooms are way more affordable and good quality, so they've gotten better. So yeah, most of them are the 100 to 400, but some of the California ones were 200 to 600.
So are you frequenting these or tripod?
I think all of these were handheld. Yeah, and so I don't know how many more years I'm going to be able to do that, but for now I can, and I do.
Do you do your own printing?
No, I tried that, and it just was way over my head. and got expensive with the ink and everything. So now, if I do print, I send it out. Yeah.
Where do you send it?
You know, I'm trying to, you ever heard of Printique? It used to be it's an Adorama company, and I like them. I print a book every year, just for my own or for family and friends, of my best bug shots. And so I maybe 100, 120 images, and I will print up and I do that through Printique, and they do their high-end quality. And so you can never make any money selling these things because they're so doggone expensive just for one. But I like to have it as a keepsake. But I'll give you a deal if you want to buy some. Yeah.
So have you ever seen an assassin bug?
Yes.
They're scary.
Yeah, they are kind of scary, aren't they? Yeah. And there's one that I run across in the Nevada, Las Vegas area. I go there every year for dragonflies, called a tarantula hawk. And they rate these things on how painful the sting is. And there's a scale of, I think, 1 to 5. Yeah, these are 5s. And I was taking pictures. I had no idea. I was taking pictures of them. Never gave it a second thought. Unfortunately, didn't get stung. Or ants, Ants standing there getting so focused in on what I'm shooting and forgetting that ants are crawling up my leg, I tell you, I'm glad I'm alive still. Okay, one last thing, and that is that I brought some postcards that I had printed up way back when, thinking that, this is going to be my new career, and I was going to make $1 million on these postcards. One postcard, and I'll leave these, I guess, at the front table. And one of them is the project that I did. You had to do a project at Rocky Mountain School of Photography for the whole term. And the project I did, I don't know where it came from, but I ended up superimposing a picture of a dinosaur on a picture of a drive-in, ice cream burger drive-in, famous one. And it was so fun, and it looked so real, and my landlord happened to be there, and I said, could you pretend like there's a dinosaur coming, a big monster coming this way, and look scared and run? And they did. And so I caught that on there. And you're welcome to take one if you like. I'll put them up there. And the other one is a Tacoma version. But it's, it's a little more tame. And it's the Museum of Glass, the bridge at the Museum of Glass, and with the dinosaur. And then I've got my cards. And my cards will have my website and an email in case you needed to contact me for anything and questions. I also post on Facebook. There's a lot of Steve Russells, and some are photographers, so you'd have to look around in there, but I'm there. And I post a picture every day. So I will leave all this at the front table. Is that the best spot? Okay. And thank you very much.
Thank the presenters so much. It's a lot of work putting these shows together, and we're really lucky they do that for us. And in the case of Mindi, she drove here from Seattle tonight to present her work. So there is a sign-up sheet on that table. If you aren't already on the email notification list, just put your email address on that piece of paper. And don't forget to come to the show in August. It's the third Friday. I think it might be August 19th, but I'm not sure. So Thank you so much for coming. You know, they usually are, but I'm traveling in September, so that one is the fourth Friday. I always try to say, but Jeff, I'm keeping you in mind because I really would love to see that show again. It was so neat to